how cruel some of these promoters could be, and some of the things that some of these guys had to go through. So there's that film of that, and then there's another one called Legends Never Die. In that you see guys like the Danucci's, Ivan Koloffs, and even Piper, Foley, and I don't know, there's some others, but they won't be coming out till fall. And over there's all kinds of different stories and what have you. You might hear Roddy Piper speak his piece about the business and so forth, which frankly surprised me too about him, because I heard what some of the things he had to say at this thing, and then I was very surprised when I found out that he went back to the WWE. But hey, what can I tell you? And then also on this website, you know, there's a lot of people on eBay and stuff, they're selling photos with my autographs, and these things, there's no authenticity to them. So in the website, we have all that stuff, and people certainly know that it's authentic, because I personally, you know, signed all these different things and that. So I think if you look at the website, I think that these people in New York did a real professional job at it, and I kind of am excited about it, and I understand it's going well, and hey, it's very simple. If people love it, they'll tune in, and if they're interested in these things, they'll get them. If they're not, well, they don't, you know. But there's a lot. But I think that a lot of things that are on it, I think, are very interesting and fascinating, especially those films, especially the one in Italy, you know. But that's my opinion.
Dan, would you like to take the next question, or?
No, you can go right ahead, James.
Alrighty then. I was going to ask you, you mentioned that you were blackballed, and you just mentioned Piper going back to the WWE, and eventually, I don't know if you heard the story, but in recent months, he was actually fired for saying something against drug use on an HBO special.
Well, I've heard that, and I don't believe that. When I say I don't believe it, I'm not saying he didn't do that. Of course he did, but I'll tell you why I believe he got fired when I heard the whole story. Okay? Because I know McMahon. I know exactly what McMahon's all about. I've known him for a long, long time. If he had brought Roddy Piper in, and he started the Piper pits, as I was told he did, and if all that stuff had clicked and Piper became a hot commodity again, what he said on that show would have meant nothing to McMahon. It would have meant absolutely nothing. Well, the reason why he fired him is because I think that when he brought him back and he tried Piper spit and all that kind of stuff, it didn't work. It's a different time. It's a completely different time. And it didn't work, and so he didn't see the value in him that he was hoping. He thought that they might light a spark, because I think McMahon's look at his actions. He brought back Hogan, and they were at odds, because he thought he might make a difference. And obviously he did not, and McMahon was looking for a way to get rid of him. Piper, the same thing. The Sable, oh my gosh, she had sued him for what, $100 million or whatever it was. And he brought her back. I think that these are signs, in my opinion, that McMahon is willing to try anything, anybody that might bring a spark back into the business. And if they work, fine. If they don't, he'll find ways and excuses to get rid of them. With Hogan, I understand he came back as Mr. America or something, and he was going to speak for the great America here. And then what did McMahon do? At least from what I hear, because I never even saw him as Mr. America, what that meant or how he was dressed. But McMahon was still, I guess, knocking him off and making him look like an idiot, and so forced him to quit, or giving him lousy payday, whatever he had to do. But he finds ways to get rid of these people when he feels that they're not contributing what he thought that they might if he brought them back. And that's what I think happened.
Okay. Would you mind if we closed out with word associations?
What do you mean? Go ahead.
Vince McMahon Sr.
He and I had our ups and downs. There's no question about it. But to compare him with his son is a world of difference. He was a much classier individual than his son is.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair is an exciting, he always was a very exciting guy who gave you 100% every time he went into the ring. He was a big name in his day, through the South especially. He certainly made great contributions. But I think that his time is up, and I think he should have left years ago.
Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I think he's a no-talent guy. I think that he's a myth. They way tried to make him much, much bigger than he ever was, and the proof of it is that he could never go into an arena time and again and be successful. If he'd do a good house the first time, he wouldn't do it the second time. So to me, he was never a good talent.
Larry Zbyszko.
Larry Zbyszko, I know there's controversy about him, but as far as talent, as far as in the ring, he was a great talent. Great talent.
Elizabeth.
Well, I knew very little of her. That's a different time now. She was a very pretty girl, and I saw her with Macho Man when I was doing commentating, but I really never got to know her, or I hardly ever talked to her, so I thought she was a very, very pretty girl, but I really knew nothing about her.
Mark Madden.
Garbage.
I don't know if there's going to be anything here, but Vince Russo.
I didn't know him, never met him, don't know the guy.
And how about, finally, Vince Jr.?
The guy who ruined, regardless of what people may call success, but the man, in my opinion, who destroyed professional wrestling.
Mm. And our final question for you is from a forum member, Rick Bear, who helped us out tremendously with this interview. Are you ever going to write a book?
I wrote a book 13 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
In fact, the book is also on my website. That's another thing. We reproduced it because, they were all gone, and we reproduced it because there have always been requests, and there are people on eBay who are selling my book for $100 a copy. So we decided to, since we always get requests for the book, we decided to reprint it, and now it's on my website. If you look into the website,
wow.
You can look at it.
Very cool. Well, once again, check that out. That website is brunosammartino.com, right?
Yeah, www.brunosammartino.com. I almost said WWF.
Well, once again, we really can't express what an honor this was to do this with you. Saying that he brought back Sable, how he brought back Hogan, how he brought back Piper, and none of them are soon to be producing. So he's just going to write them off any way he can at the first opportunity. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked some of the stuff he said about the early days, about, say, when he had his neck broken with Stan Hansen. And he did the entire story, setting the story straight once and for all about Buddy Rogers and that title victory that took about, I believe it was 48 seconds. Is that right, Rick?
47, 48, somewhere around there. From what I remember, the original story was Rogers had a heart attack and came out of his hospital bed to have the match and lost it quick because he was sick.
And that was what he emphatically denied. He said,
He denied that.
He said it was an excuse.
Ah.
He said it was some sort of an excuse because he said they had a good match 2 nights before, but it was non-title. I think that's what he said, 2 nights before.
Yeah, he said they had the match on the Thursday, and there was a non-title match which he won, and he wasn't supposed to wrestle against Rogers that night. But they had the match, and he won, but it was non-title. And then on the Monday he won, and it was title.
Right.
Well, that's a little different story than what Rogers was saying several years ago, but, it's all wrestling anyway.
It's all wrestling anyway? What do you mean by that?
Well, when Bruno was wrestling, it was all kayfabe. No matter what went on, whether it was real or wasn't real or whatever, they lived and died by it. Now, Rogers said that he came out of the hospital bed to lose the match. That was Rogers' story. Bruno's denying that emphatically. And the fact that he had a match 2 days before would belie that Rogers was ever in the hospital at that time.
Right, I believe that's the case. And if I recall, I heard an interview that Kevin Sullivan had done, and he was talking about how Vince Sr. was not a nice guy because he made Rogers come out of the hospital bed to do that match. Now, if this is not true, then somewhere the stories are getting tangled. And
Exactly.
We'll wonder if we can find our way to the root of it. We're supposed to have Kevin Sullivan on the show, so maybe he has more insight on it.
Maybe that was kayfabe coming. Like Kevin Sullivan.
Kayfabe? I don't think so. He wasn't really a kayfabe in that interview. Well, speaking...
He's just misinformed.
Yes, and what did you think of what he said about, jeez, I can't remember what I was just about to say. Oh, Mark Madden.
Oh, yes. The comment on Mark, how he forced the retraction and the apology to go through. And I'm not damn well surprised.
Yeah, well, what he said was Mark Madden on the show was talking about all the greats in wrestling history, and he said, and the late Bruno Sammartino. And I don't know what the problem he had with Bruno is, but apparently there is one. And,
Can you shed any light on that at all?
That one's news to me. Mark came along years after Bruno did, so I don't know whether it was just a mistaken statement on Mark's part. Or...
No, he knew what he was saying, because I heard him on WCW Live after, and he's like, and he said he knew he wasn't dead, but he was just doing it to be obnoxious.
Well, Hedden is obnoxious.
Yeah.
You can tell.
You can tell, yes.
Okay, well, changing gears slightly, I'd like to